The world is in a very weird state right now. Corruption has sunk its fangs into everything around us. The price of eggs just keeps going up. You could get a single carton of eggs for the same price as a down payment on a Tesla. Yeah, I can't believe the wacky state of the world. Who would have thought? But by far, the biggest display of injustice in our society was something that took place last night at the Streamer Awards. The Streamer Awards are an annual, high-quality production spearheaded by Cutie Cinderella. It's an event that every human being on the planet looks forward to every year, and they make the Oscars ceremony look like a participation trophy awards show for the second-string JV sports clubs at a high school. It's an amazing and fun event that just brings everyone in the space together to just have some fun, and it's voted on by fans to just kind of celebrate the space. As you all know, last year, I was the recipient of the prestigious Variety Streamer of the Year category. This year, Radio Silence. I wasn't nominated for anything. Now, me being an adult and being the strong, hulking, masculine embodiment of what it means to be a testosterone-fueled titan, I can handle that. I'm okay with it. I understand. But not everyone is as mentally strong or has my level of fortitude. So there were riots, there were protests at the Streamer Awards ceremony. And I kind of just want to talk about that a little bit because I think it's important too.
Dude, it suits you, man. Huh? It suits you like the fancy. For real? I'm nervous.
I watched it unfold live. The chaos was almost too much for me to bear. People protesting on my behalf, I never would have wanted such a thing, but as you could see, it was inevitable. I wasn't nominated for any categories, and people, they had enough. So, as you can see, a few rioters showed up there. I don't know those men, and I can only imagine the ones that didn't make it that must have been protesting right outside. But these three noble heroes snuck in. As you can see, they're strategically planted in the blind spots of security, like a game of fucking Assassin's Creed. They had no idea they were there. And, well, it only escalated from there.
As far as anyone who's anyone is
What?
here...
What?
Wait,
What are we doing here?
They gotta work on security.
What are we
You got some fucking
What are we
hooligans
doing?
turning up.
Guys,
Pretty much, we weren't nominated this year, and it's a bigger spit in the face than spitting in God's face. It's like slapping God on his freaking ass and then asking him to come show up anyways. I don't know why we were nominated if you don't have the respect to give us the time of day.
Is this a protest?
Yeah, this is a protest. Yep,
protest,
you
yeah.
got it right on the dot.
I think they
Y'all
have
make me
something. I
feel
think
like
they're onto
moist
something.
critical right now.
Yeah.
A second-class
What does that even
citizen.
mean?
A second-class citizen.
Oh, because two.
It's like an afterthought, but not like a good afterthought like the Chow Garden and Sonic Adventure Battle 2. More like a bad afterthought like the script in Avatar The Way of Water.
Yeah, have you ever heard of the franchise Hunger Games? That's my arm right there.
He's speaking facts.
I kind of carried the franchise, and you
Hollywood
didn't have
royalty.
the guts to nominate us. So now we're on
Hollywood royalty,
protest.
and yet
All right, okay, well, let me ask you
won
guys,
last year.
what should you have been nominated for?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
Agreed. They're onto something.
Yep.
Look, let me show you something. What
Yep.
we have here is Brendan Fraser's talented actor Bathwater.
Yep.
What?
So, when he was filming The Whale, after the shoot, he took off the fat suit, and for about 6 hours each day of shooting, he would soak in a bath. This is 75% Brendan Fraser sweat,
Don't drink
25%
it. Don't drink.
water.
Don't drink it. Don't
Well, let him
drink
take a swig. It's like
Don't drink
it's
it.
like
Don't drink it.
nectar.
It's gonna mess me up.
I'm a big fan of
Don't
The
drink
Mummy.
it.
Well, when you drink
They're treating Brendan Fraser's sweat like it's poison, which is honestly insulting. I imagine if that truly was his sweat in the jar, like I imagine it would be, probably ethically sourced right from Brendan himself, you'd be lucky enough to be able to try some of that absolute sweet potion. That'd be like a panacea. It'd heal all your wounds, make you taller, put more hair on your chest. Like, what a generous gift they came bearing. This is the most peaceful protest I've ever seen in my fucking life.
For you.
These,
And,
these homeless men are really upset. I told you the corruption has really
Why? Are you
angered the
watching-
entire community.
You're watching Moist Critical stream of this.
Charlie, and Charlie's stream. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Well, it's kind of funny you came back to us right now because you didn't have the courtesy to nominate us. It's kind of like spitting in God's face and then asking him to beg for forgiveness. It's kind of pathetic.
Back
I give
at
it
it
back because I
again.
figured that was for you. So.
All.
What was
right.
that for me? That I don't know who those guys are. It's just they're as
We
upset
are
as everyone
going
else is
to-
about this whole situation.
I'm gonna
honestly, it's a
come down
shame
right down
that I wasn't
here,
nominated,
so
and they've
then
had enough.
Valky
clearly.
Ray.
This is me extending an olive branch. I'm calling for a ceasefire. This anger is misplaced. It's not the way of the Jedi. This is a fan-nominated ceremony, which means I fell off. That means my stream wasn't clapping cheeks the way it was last year. And as hard as it is to take responsibility, there's really only one place you can point your finger, only one entity to shoulder the blame, and that's everyone but me. It's actually a giant conspiracy on the same level as Hollow Earth. There's some true foul play going on behind the scenes, not only in the community, but on the platform itself. I ask you, when was the last time my stream was on the front page of Twitch or even recommended on Twitch? Do I hear zero? Because that's the correct answer, which is weird. I mean, I do a lot of innovative, cool shit on Twitch. Like, just like a month ago, I was talking about Bill Cosby's upcoming comedy tour, and even chat was being very helpful with giving, like, ways to survive. You know, bring your own snacks. If you start yawning, immediately dial 911. Like, we go over important topics. We do crazy shit. Like, I played Sons of the Forest really fast, and I only cried twice because of how fucking bad that game was and how awful and boring the speedrun was after the fucking 20th time of running it. Point is, I mean, like, hey, you know, these streams, you know, they're just as good this year as last year. I mean, so something must have gone wrong. There must have been some kind of outer forces at work in order to keep me suppressed, or perhaps they didn't want me to win too many times, which I think is probably the leading theory. But regardless, it's clearly not me who's hurt. I'm not the one offended. It's pandemonium on the streets right now of LA. Those were only 3 protesters that made it inside the venue undetected. But I've seen pictures, I've read reports about thousands upon thousands showing up wondering, where's Moist Critical at? You know, I wasn't on the ballot. You know what, it's not important though, because at the end of the day, the event was fucking amazing. QT Cinderella and the entire production team absolutely outdid themselves. This was bigger and better than last year, and I fucking loved watching it. Huge thanks to QT Cinderella for letting me even watch party it in the first place. I really wanted to go, but I do have a legitimate debilitating fear of flying, so that was kind of off the table, and it's literally like a 3-day road trip from where I'm at to get to California, and that's just a very difficult thing to make happen. So I couldn't be there myself, but she allowed me to still co-stream it and watch it with the chat and celebrate and just be part of the fun. But luckily, you know, I've cloned myself, we have doppelgangers, and they were able to attend in my place, and they made a very fun spectacle out of it. Of course, they were kissing each other, per usual. I still don't fully understand why, but like if you watch the Twitch highlight of the Streamer Awards, when the Charlies are on screen, they do a threesome kiss for some reason. It's fantastic work. Absolutely. I guess that is what I'm known for, you know, kissing myself. Just a really huge thanks. I always appreciate that they're willing to do something like that, and it's become just a cherished tradition at this point. So big thanks to Joel Haver, Kevin Amarillo, and Demetrios Michalikis. I think it's always just spectacular. So I just want to talk about this a little bit because the Streamer Awards are something that I think is very special. I always love, like I mentioned, when a creator does something big and branches out from just standard content online from like gaming or talking or whatever and doing these huge productions and taking a risk like this. And QT does it like no one else does. The production, the event, is unlike anything else in the space. It's a huge venue, very professional, and just so well put together and fun, and it always just... It deserves a huge round of applause from everyone who enjoys live content or anything like that because it's spectacular. So I just wanted to highlight that and the great work her and her team have done for this. Absolutely fucking killed it. Can't wait for the next one next year. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. During one of my streams a while ago, someone asked me if I could get Riley Reid to come on the podcast, you know, to talk about wieners, vaginas, pussies, and RuneScape, just the normal type of porn talk on the podcast. And I responded saying I don't think Riley Reid would ever want to do that because she doesn't like me, personally. And that led to me telling the story of the beef between Riley Reid and myself. Beef being the wrong word, but for lack of a better term, the bad blood between us. Although this was a while ago, so I'm sure she probably doesn't remember or just doesn't care anymore. But now, ever since I told that story on a stream, people are constantly asking me during streams to tell the story again. And it's kind of cute, kind of like, you know, a kid asking their grandfather who fought in Vietnam to tell them war stories that they've heard a million times from him, except in my case, the only war I fought was on the shores of Riley Reid's butthole. So I figured I'd make a video dedicated to telling the story. So it all started when I made a video about Riley Reid's abominable rap, which remains today one of the worst raps I've ever heard. Now there's definitely a lot worse raps on YouTube from small channels with like 30 views, maybe from like Old Pop Hickey Yokel's barnyard rap ballad about cunnilingus on his animals and making love to his sister, or maybe a chemistry professor's educational rap that's just fucking horrible. But those aren't fully produced raps. Those are all very amateur attempts at it, so I don't really count those as actual raps. Riley Reid had a team behind her and fully produced, so it was a genuine attempt at it, and it was fucking horrible. The worst I'd heard in that department. So I stand by that. I stand by that analysis. On the moist meter, that'd be a 5%. Now, when I published the video, I was made aware she wasn't too happy with my critique of her song here. And I can understand why, because it's clear she put a lot of heart and soul in that. There was inspired lyrics in there, such as, spit stringing from my mouth, let you fuck my face, good nutritious nut. And who could forget when she really takes it home with, jerk it out, jerk it out, jerk it out, beat it out, beat it out, beat it out, jerk it out, jerk it out, beat it out, jerk it out. So I can understand when I insulted her magnum opus of music, that she wasn't too happy with that. And that's when it really started, when I made that video. So she didn't like that I made that, she didn't like me, and then about 2 or 3 months after that, I went on her Twitter page, just browsing and perusing, learning more than anything. Well, honestly, I was just looking for titties, for lack of a better cover story. I went through a lot of different porn stars' pages just to see what productions they were taking part in, really. But while on Riley Reid's, I noticed she had retweeted some fan art. And let me tell you what, that fan art, bingo, bango, bongo, that's the epitome of fan art right there. What it was a crayon drawing of Riley Reid spreading her ass cheeks apart and just having her brown balloon nut winking at the camera. It was fucking beautiful. And I saw this, and I made a tweet about it. It was a very vague tweet. I didn't say what porn star. All I said was, haha, I just saw, porn star's fan art with her gaping asshole in crayon. It was great. And then I guess people found it and told the artist that I said that. And then the artist called me an asshole, and then Riley Reid retweeted that saying I'm an asshole, so then they were just double teaming me. And, it all stemmed because, I mean, come on, it's a crayon drawing of a porn star's asshole. How's that not entertaining? I don't want to show the fan art, but instead I took it upon myself to try and doodle it myself. I did 2 attempts here, neither one of them really capture it. This was my first attempt. It doesn't really convey what it looked like. This looks more like a God of War enemy. So then I tried again. And this one just kind of looks like a Wallace and Gromit character doing some naughty shit. This isn't what the fan art looked like. It definitely looked a lot better than this. And I went on the artist's page, and she's talented. But this particular piece, I had a giggle about. Come on. You got a porn star spreading her fucking chocolate starfish, and you're doing it in crayon? That's great. That's gonna put a smile on anyone's face. And to be totally honest, as far as crayon drawings of porn stars spreading their fudge cutters go, this is probably the best it can ever get. It was really well done. I could see where the asshole was. I could see the butthole clearly. There was even some labia draping down like some beef curtains. And the pose was really well conveyed. Like you could see the stretching of the ass cheeks, pulling it apart and seeing what's between them. It was really well done. It had a side by side so you could see what the pose was not in crayon and then in crayon. Really well translated. But I honestly don't know why they both got so offended about me making it a joke. I thought the piece was done lightheartedly as just kind of like, hey, look at this little doodle I did. You remember when you did that photo shoot where you spread your butthole wide? Well, here it is in crayon. Oh, that's cool. Retweet. I didn't know it was going to be a hill you want to die on defending it as some type of artistic masterpiece or anything. Like if someone out there wanted to make a fan art of me with my legs over my head and soft dick slapping me in the face and they did it out of Sharpie or Legos or pipe cleaner or something, I'd be like, haha, that's entertaining, that's cool. And then if people start turning into a joke, I don't think they turn to me and be like, defend this. I'd be like, well, at the end of the day, that's my soft cock slapping me in my face out of some goofy material, you know what I mean? That's probably worth making a joke out of. But, anyway, that's why Riley Reid doesn't like me and probably will never come on the podcast. If I'm wrong, Riley, and you do want to come on the podcast, just go ahead and reach out to me on Twitter. But yep, there's the story, and that's it. See ya. How far would you go for some updoots on the internet? How badly do you want to suckle from that juicy teat of internet clout? I've actually started quite a few videos with that exact same question. It seems that today the most important thing to people is the numbers on the screen. Bigger number, better person. Everyone's so desperate to squeeze as much milk as possible from those beautiful honkers of internet points, and no price is too high. We've seen some wacky, goofy shit recently for those internet points. You remember those dudes that went to jail for 3 years on TikTok because they were filming a stop the train prank where they just sit on the train tracks and hope the train stops in time before they get brutally fucking blasted by it? And then it actually did stop and they went to jail. We also recently saw that kid play the fake robbery prank on some strangers and he got shot and died for it. His last words were quite literally, "Just a prank, bro." At least according to a few sources, that was an extremely sad one. So we've seen some crazy shit. People really will do anything for some internet fame. And today I want to talk about a pretty special case. It's someone that I'm sure you've heard of. I've talked about him before. A lot of people have. He's been a big name on YouTube for a while. His name's Nikocado Avocado. If you're on Twitter, you've probably seen his asshole floating around pretty often. For some reason, it was a big trend in meme to just post Nikocado Avocado's OnlyFans content all over Twitter. So I've seen his butthole more times than I've seen him doing his mukbangs. For those that don't know, Nikocado Avocado is a mukbang YouTuber. It's primarily what he does. Mukbangs are when you just eat on camera, and that's about it. I'm not really here to get into the lore of Nikocado Avocado. There's a ton of videos that do dive into it. I want to talk about what's going on recently with him. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and take my swampy ass out of here for a second and let Nikocado Avocado kind of take it away. This is from his most recent video. This is kind of what his content has become.
I wouldn't have become disabled if it weren't for you people who encouraged these videos. This is the $6, this is the $10. Ouch! My ribs! How many months are we gonna have to endure this pain? Alright, let's go for this. Ooh. This definitely looks cheesier. This one. And I'm allergic to this one too. Oh. But sometimes in life you just want what you can't have. I'm not allowed to have garlic. Or lots of onions, or durian.
Now, to anyone that's familiar with this creator, you'll probably think that this is nothing special. This just looks like every other video he's ever made, just with less crying. You've probably even seen Nikocado Avocado around other parts of the internet. If you don't even know who he is, you've probably seen some of his clips. He usually will eat something and then just start breaking down into tears and crying about something. He's notorious for constantly crying. So then why did I decide this video and these clips to show you? Well, as you can tell from the title of that video, he now claims to be a disabled person, which I'll get into in a minute, but I want to focus on what he said at the beginning, outside of making some of the most revolting noises I've heard in quite some time while undergoing some kind of exorcism. He said, "It's your fault for encouraging these videos." Now, he says shit like this pretty often, and it shows me that there's still some self-awareness deep within him somewhere, locked deep away. But that rational side of him he keeps buried, locked in a cage, and still does this content, even knowing better, even knowing that it's a complete detriment to his overall health and well-being. He continues to do it while still having that small glimmer of self-awareness. He says it's your fault for encouraging it, and he's absolutely right. Nikocado Avocado didn't start as this kind of channel. Even 4 years ago, 2017, so 4 years ago now, he was a very healthy person. He seemed to be pretty mentally, sound. He wasn't breaking down on camera all the time and going wild and crazy from what I remember. He was even extremely good at an instrument. I think it was the violin, if I remember correctly. He was a vegan. He was just preaching some really positive stuff. But then he started to notice that the videos that gained a lot of traction were videos where he was just fucking gluttonous and eating 1,000,000 calories per sitting. So he stuck with it. And now he has a couple of channels where he does this pretty much every day, and it's been like this for the last 4 or so years. This is what he used to look like in 2017, and then when the videos really started to gain traction, he gained over 200 pounds in the last couple of years. And it's absolutely true. It's the audience's fault for this. They created what Nikado Avocado has become. Obviously, it's not all their fault. He is making the conscious decisions to completely throw away his health and well-being, which has now led to his disability, which he claims to have. Again, Nikado Avocado is not the most reliable narrator. He makes a lot of shit up sometimes. So whether or not he actually now has a disability, it's anyone's guess. He claims to have 3 broken ribs, which is attributed to his incredible weight gain. Incredible being the wrong word, really just astonishingly upsetting weight gain that he's been putting on recently. He claims that the weight of his body has now broken a few of his ribs, which now has him bedridden. I think he also claimed to now have to have a full-time nurse in order for him to just engage in day-to-day activities. And he also has been diagnosed with sleep apnea, I believe, which is why you'll see on his most recent thumbnails, he has like that machine hooked up to his nose that makes him look like some kind of like cyborg from the future or something. It seems to really be going downhill quickly for him. People have been saying for the last couple years that Nikado Avocado is literally killing himself for YouTube views, and it's absolutely true. He is slowly killing himself and documenting the journey the entire time while having an understanding of exactly what he's doing. He's well aware that he is throwing away his health, his well-being, his happiness, for the sake of some YouTube views because his audience continues to eat it up, much like he eats up a million fucking cheeseburgers every couple of days. For almost the last 4 years, almost every day, he has done mukbangs like this, where he's eating 6 pizzas, 8 pizzas. He'll get like fucking McDonald's and he'll order everything off the menu and then ask if they can just tilt the grill over to get a little extra grease in a cup for him to drink on camera. It has been an extremely sad thing to see. He's also been saying for a little while now that he's going to be losing some weight. His weight loss journey has begun, but what ends up happening is for every pound he loses, he gains 10 more. I didn't play much of the video here, but he even mentioned that. He even goes on to say after the "your fault" speech that he started his weight loss and he lost a pound but then gained 3 more because he wanted to please his audience with more videos or something like that. So it's just truly a pretty awful thing to see. As you probably noticed from the screenshot, the last 6 days he's posted a video each day talking about his disability and his new diet with it, and each one he has tons and tons of food from different places, and it's not clickbait. He really eats all of that food. Very rarely does he not finish his plate. He usually finishes it or gets very close to it. Almost nothing goes to waste. It goes right into Nikado Avocado's guts. And one thing you may have also noticed from that screenshot is his views are high, which is exactly why he does it. Yeah, most of them have more dislikes than likes, but even on the one I showed you, that's still like 4,000 likes, so there are 4,000 people dropping a fat like, leaving an encouraging comment, and he's usually peddling some merch, so the shirts you see him wear, he immediately pins in a comment for you to buy them, and I imagine he sells quite a few shirts. Even the people that get in there just to dislike, or just tune in to watch the train wreck, that's more views for him, that's more engagement, that helps him, and that keeps him on this wagon, keeps him going. So overall, it's just a really shitty cycle. And I tune in occasionally just to see if Nikado Avocado is making any strides in helping himself, because it seems like he really wants to sometimes, and then he goes right back into going to Chick-fil-A to literally eat fucking food off the floor like David Hasselhoff. Like, it's just really sad. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. He doesn't usually visit the restaurants. He just orders it and then eats it from either his bed or his own like table that he sets up for it. When he is out in public, though, he's usually on one of the mobility scooters, and he gets a little crazy out there, because a lot of what his content has become is him making really gross noises and shaking his head around while trying his best to like shake his whole body around to really let you know that he's gained a lot of weight, which I don't know, man. The whole thing is just weird and just sad, and that's all I wanted to talk about. This is just another one of those things where it's like, man, the links people go to for some internet fame, like, it's just upsetting to see. So, I mean, yeah, that's really about it. So, yeah. Yeah, we can talk about the OTK stuff. So, I don't doubt that they did a legitimate third-party investigation on all of the Miz stuff. I'm sure they did. I think it's a real big disservice to the entire community to not publicize the results of that investigation. I wasn't there, so I don't know what the truth is, but I imagine the investigation would have come as close as possible to finding the truth, and since all of this was in the public discourse, why wouldn't you release the findings of the investigation publicly? I feel like that's just a huge misstep. Like, it's hard for me to, like, just believe it. Like, why not show the results? Yeah, Tiana's watching, what the fuck's it called? The Recruit? Or something? Thanks for 5 gift subs, Reginald. Appreciate it, man. And the resub, Jow, your boy, Bull, Draconic, and Pancake. And no, I don't like Madden. So right now, Miz board duties are suspended and he's under a monitored probation with OTK, but he is back to being a member. And like I said, I don't doubt they went to a third party since they listed or named the third party investigation, like the organization that conducted it. But they needed to publicize that publicly so everyone could see the information, see the evidence, and then decide for themselves if this is a situation that was misunderstood, misconstrued, and make their decisions themselves. Because just taking the bland is the wrong word, but taking like the PR statement at face value is going to be super, super hard for most people, including me. I would have liked to see the evidence that was picked up by the investigation team. I don't know why they wouldn't make that public when everything else about it was public. So you need to prove it publicly, I would think. That's how I would have liked that to be handled. I'm sure it involves testimony which can't be disclosed. Okay, I don't need specifics. I don't need to know every participant's social security number. I just mean like the general scope of what they investigated, how they conducted it, what did they find in a general sense, and then people can draw their own conclusions from all of the evidence that was collected by a neutral third party, and everyone then can make their decision on do they forgive Mizkif, should Mizkif even go back to OTK, and all of that. I just really think that should have been a public thing from the investigation report. Thanks a resub Jump and Connor. And the bits, Ethan. Should have been a press release from the law firm. Agreed, yeah. And of course you can redact sensitive information. I don't think there's any merit in seeing very particulars about people involved. Just giving like the actual general evidence that you have collected would be sufficient. You don't have to put anyone's safety in jeopardy. But since all of this happened very publicly, it should all be revealed publicly. Thanks a resub helmet. Yeah, watch Lud's vid. Why does he have the does he have the investigation reports? Thanks for the 5 gift subs, dude. Alright.
Year means new goals, and maybe one of your goals this year
Thanks
is to
resub
burn
Devil.
as much money as possible.
Galloway.
And I have a great solution for you. It's called esports. If you don't know, pretty much every single esports organization is vastly overvalued because they're all subsidized by venture capitalist groups that are probably going to get fed up in 3 to 4
This is kind of quiet. Is this quiet on stream for you guys or not? Why is it quiet? Yeah, let me try that.
5 years when none of them are profitable, or
Is that better?
crypto exchanges. And we know what's happening with crypto exchanges. Let's just take a look at the Forbes top 10 most valuable esports companies. At the top, you can see TSM, 100 Thieves, Liquid, and FaZe Clan. Well, let's just take a look at TSM. How are they doing? Oh, they had a deal with FTX
jeepers.
that got suspended.
Zoinks.
210 million. Okay, that's all right. Well, how about 100 Thieves? Are they? Oh, they laid off a bunch of people. Okay, well, you got to reduce overheads sometimes. Okay, what about Liquid? Oh, a deal with Coin.
And you guys always doubted me. I have told you since starting Moist Esports and getting into the scene, every goddamn tier 1 org is dreadfully overvalued and they're all hemorrhaging money. Just because they have those big, fat, like, financial end-of-year statements like this doesn't mean they're profitable. In fact, up until the FTX collapse, TSM and I think it was 100 Thieves were the only two turning any meaningful profit, and 100 Thieves was making profit entirely off of the companies they absorb, which is, you know, they're doing merch. They recently bought, like, Respawn chairs, I think. And then they also have their keyboard company. They're making it on things that aren't esports-centric. It's like accessories in the space. Esports as a whole has like a 15x multiple on their valuation, which is ridiculous, and none of them are making money.
For 4 years. Surely that will last. And finally, FaZe Clan. Okay, publicly traded company, valued at 134 million. Wait, 400 million, 100. Okay, that dropped.
Lachlan. Oh, is that the real Lachlan?
That dropped really fast. Okay.
Is it Prime?
Well, that's
Tiana?
Look, not me just trying to make fun of esports orgs, because I like esports and I like anyone who takes an attempt at making it work. It just doesn't seem like the economics of it match the ambitions of a lot of the people inside of the sphere. What does work, however? Content teams, influencers, signing content creators, which a lot of esports orgs do, and that seems to be the profitable part of their business, and it's also what some content teams do. I mean, take offline TV, for example. You put all these people in a room, they print out multiple million view videos that they can sell giant sponsors on. I mean, pretty much every one of their videos has a sponsor, and they're getting buku bucks for that with pretty low overhead because they each have their own individual careers. Now, imagine you could combine the content team of OTV.
No, Moist Esports is very, 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 very far from profitable. It's not even close. Lettuce said nothing that's wrong right now about esports. It is not a profitable scene. None of the orgs can actually figure out a way to make money from esports directly. It's all through, like, the accessory stuff. Like, again, 100 Thieves and their merch, their chairs, their keyboards, shit like that. None of them are properly monetizing the space, but everything is so overvalued that everyone, for some reason, has this desire to get in. So it attracts a lot of venture capital. Hold on, let me see if Tetra's alright. I can hear a coughin. Give me 2 seconds. Why are esports teams so overvalued? Because the space has become like a gold rush. So esports is blown up. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry now. So that's attracted a ton of the old money who sees the numbers and they're like, wow, this must be like a great space for making cash. Like, for example, Vinnick, the owner of the Tampa Bay Lightning, owns Team Liquid. And you're telling me he knows anything about gaming? Absolutely not. It's just all of this old money saw these big numbers and they got into the space, which drove the value of every esports org through the goddamn roof way too quickly. So now everything just has a massive, massive, massive overvaluation. Is the resub JB in the Prime sacrifice?
With maybe the more
yeah,
rigid
Shaq owns
structure of
NRG.
an esports org, and you end up with something like OTK, One True King, a streamer-backed esports org
school.
that doesn't really do esports. I mean, they had a team in World of Warcraft, but they dropped the team, so they're pretty much just sticking with the good old-fashioned content creator route, which is smart because they're not only able to sell sponsors on the watch hours of all the people inside the org, they're also able to sell things directly to consumers with businesses they start, like Starforge Systems. I mean,
this is a good question, actually. Outside of talent, what are the big costs of esports that stop them from making a profit? So, right away, player salaries are huge in the space, at least depending on the games. But player salaries are big because you have to think. You're paying 5 players plus a coach if you're in like something like CSGO, and a manager, and travel costs for 6 people. And you don't make any money off of the events unless it's like a major prize pool, and even then it's only a percentage. Now, Moist Esports, we make 0% when our teams win. That all goes to our players because for us, it's just fun content. I stream it, I watch party it, people will sub, maybe people buy the merch, so it kind of offsets a little bit, but never actually comes close to breaking even or anything. But it's worth it for me because of the content. But for like a normal esports org that has venture capital backing, all of that budget is spent on the salaries, the travel, in the hopes that they win a major where they make usually like 20 to 30, well, it really varies, but let's just be safe and say somewhere between 20 and 30% of the prize pool. And that's, you know, take something like Rocket League. You know, that's, let's say, first place at one of the regionals. You get 90K. I think it was 90K when we won the spring major. So you're taking 20% of that. That's still not a lot for a major esports org. So you don't make a lot of money from winning. So then you have to try and make it elsewhere. So you're spending tons of money on these salaries. So what do? In some esports orgs, they get really shady, in my opinion, and they start taking from their players' revenue on stream. I don't know how common this is anymore, but when we first got in here, that seemed to be pretty common. So the org actually takes a percentage of their stream revenue in order to try and make some of that money back, which I think is fucked up. But that was another way that they tried to monetize the esports scene. And that still isn't a ton, because the streamers, they're still making the lion's share, the org's getting a percentage of that, and they're still paying tons of money for the salaries and all of the teams built around them. So, what else do? Well, they try merch. Merch is usually pretty good, but it's not the hardest hitting because not too many people are running around with... we'll just use... What's a good one? I don't want to do phase. I'm trying to think of a more, like, less... We'll say G2. Like, merch is good for G2, but no one's buying tons of G2 merch every single time. Plus, the players promoting it, like, it doesn't feel genuine most of the time. And as, like, a viewer, you're not going in there, like, listening to one of the players talk about the merch and be like, oh, he's talking about it because he really likes it. It's a contractual obligation, and everyone knows that. So they're not super interested in just buying it based on that. So there's just not many ways that these teams are bringing in big money. And they're paying so much on the salaries and the travel and all of the verticals they had to build around it just to make it function. So it's just been a super tricky space for all of them. That's why everyone's constantly hemorrhaging money in esports. Sponsors help, for sure, because it's at least something guaranteed, but it's still just not enough to offset the massive costs. Thanks to Tier 1 Antonio, and the resub Happy and Maury. Esports merch what was that? I missed it. It was something like esports merch should be sleek and with a small logo and look good. That's what we believe as well. That's why our Moist Esports shit just looks really good on its own. You'd never know that it's Moist Esports or anything gaming related, except for the jersey, obviously. The jersey's very clearly a jersey, but like the tracksuit and shit is just something you can wear everywhere and no one would have any idea. Because it just looks good. Feels good. Thanks to the Prime, Happy, and the Give Sub Slam, and the Resub Tex. So yeah, every esports org except for like 2 are hemorrhaging money. And all the others, like, it's a weird space.
I mean, imagine if I had swipe bidets and then I had a team of 10 creators that I worked with all the time and they all sold swipe bidets individually. We'd get a lot of buttholes clean in the new year. So it makes sense. And don't just take my word for it. Let's look at the most popular Twitch teams by hours watched. Obviously, G Fuel at the top. They have 671 creators. XQC's org, he's up top there. Loaded, they have a bunch of big creators. And OTK's 4th. They're 4th with only 14 people, and a couple of their creators barely streamed over the past year for reasons we're going to get into. Now, I haven't made any videos about OTK because, well, none of the individual pieces felt substantial enough to talk about for longer than a couple of minutes.
I thought it looked good, deep.
But enough has happened over the past year, and especially with the update last night that ended the investigation on Mizkif, that I feel like we can talk about it all today. Now, we're going to get to the investigation with Mizkif at the end, but first, let's do things in order with what started off their terrible month of December, and it involves another one of their founders, Rich Campbell. Now, Rich Campbell, if you don't know, is a esports host turned streamer who did a lot of maybe the more business side of things behind OTK, and one of the people
Blood
that
reacting
he used
to you,
to be in a
reacting to
relationship
him.
with
Hey!
on Twitter, dropped a tweet longer.
Hope you're having a great stream, big guy. Hope you're well. Thanks to the resub, Websy. I was just getting into the weeds of what it's like to be in the esports space. I was giving everyone a little conference meeting on what it's like to do nothing but lose money in esports, but have a lot of fun doing it. Thanks to the resub, Purple Fox. How long has Moist been around? A year and 4 months now. Thanks to the resub, Lee Tui. In the Prime Rigby. Is there going to be God Slap merch anytime soon? There is. If you'd like a brand new Machinima laptop bag, I'd give you my old one. Nah, you can keep that or throw it away, really, honestly. Esports needs sponsors. Nope, esports has tons of sponsors. It's just still not enough to make up for the massive cost and salaries and all of the people that are required to make teams and run the orgs. Like shit, TSM has who is it? Chevrolet? Fuck. Mercedes? Like every major car brand is in the esports scene right now. I said this before. Moist Esports almost got Jaguar. I always exaggerate that, but they were interested for like a day. But like the thing is, most big car brands are in esports. Like that's not an issue, but it's still just not enough to offset the huge costs. It's the Prime Junie, Ali in the resub, Salaya, Liam, Banjo, Cyclone, and Tier 1 Bottle. You have to think about, I see people keep comparing it to sports, like how does sports make money? Well, there's an obvious difference between sports and esports. When you own a sports team, how do you think you're making the most amount of money? Ticket sales, to go watch your team play. The beauty of esports is you don't have to go anywhere to watch them. You go on Twitch, you go on YouTube, and you watch them for free. Like, you're not selling tickets. It's a totally different landscape. TV contracts as well. Yeah, it's so different. And I guess merch, because sports has been around for so long, it's like cool to wear sports merch. That's fair. Esports isn't there yet. Like, no need to pretend that it is. Esports isn't on the same level as normal sports merch yet. But yeah, tickets is still a huge part. TV contracts still a huge part, obviously. It's the resub Rager and Arctic. And yeah, I know about Elemental. Tickets is drops in the bucket. Okay, I think in the grand scheme of things when it comes to big sports, yes, tickets are not their #1 cash cow for it, but it is significantly more than esports has when it comes to like steady revenue. There are so many other ways of monetizing like traditional sports than esports right now. And that's what a lot of people are now learning after getting in the space.
About a terrible experience she had with Rich. And I really recommend you read this on your own because I think it states how she feels about it more clearly and everything that happened more clearly. But I'm going to read you 2 excerpts. I'm not here to sleep with you, and I do not want that. That is Lexi to Rich Campbell when they were hanging out at Rich's place. And then Rich replied, by jerking off in front of her while continuing to talk about her getting pregnant and then begging her to have sex with him. After she said no, he continually attempted to take her clothes off. She kept saying no, and at the very end, he rolled her over and put himself inside of her and finished unprotected. That was hard to read, but it is a clear picture of sexual assault, rape, just outright. Now, Rich hasn't replied to this yet, but there were a lot of text messages that backed up them being together at that exact moment, him asking her to come over, etc., and it ended off with a text from him to her right after it ended with the same timeline saying, "You okay?" So I believe the account. You can wait for Rich Campbell's statement, which hasn't come out yet, but it's pretty clear that OTK also believes the statement, or at least is concerned enough about it that they instantly, and I mean instantly, dropped him. Within like hours of the statement coming out, he was booted from OTK,
it was sub 3 hours. It was a little speed run, honestly.
The founders of it, and they kicked him out. So that was a terrible thing to happen. But the next week, the troubles didn't end for OTK as a whole because they lost a huge part of their organization
Jay
Schlatt.
Schlatt.
Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you the value that Jay Schlatt has on the YouTube algorithm. He's one of my most viewed videos on pretty much every single one of my channels, and he's part of the reason why Mogul Mail even exists today, because the weekly slap is what inspired me originally. And he mutually agreed to leave OTK. Now, it might not seem like a big hit because, you know, he's not much of a streamer. He doesn't stream too often.
But he's a huge
many
content
people
creator.
didn't even know he was in OTK. But if you look at OTK's YouTube channel that has almost 600,000 subscribers, that was built by Jay Schlatt. Let's just take a look at the top 10 most viewed videos. 9 of them.
Well, you can even just look at the
involving
newest
Jay Schlatt.
videos. Every single
He's
one
like
of them has Jay
13
Schlatt.
of the top 15. He
He's a tier one
is
soap in the recent
OTK
Pogs
YouTube,
in green.
and I think that's a big thing to lose. And then the week after
Recent
that,
Danny.
which was actually just last night, we finally got the end to the investigation on Mizkif over the alleged sexual assault cover-up involving his best friend at the time, Crazy Slick. And now, if you don't know, this was basically a third-party law firm that OTK hired to investigate Mizkif, to which a lot of people, I think, understandably were upset about. They're like, okay, well, aren't you just investigating yourself? But who is supposed to do the investigation? If there were no charges filed by the police and they aren't doing an investigation, it's not like someone's going to magically get up and do it. You kind of have to hire someone to try to absolve yourself. But even if we just ignore the entirety of the investigation, I think it's pretty safe to say that a lot of the allegations made in the original tweet by Trainwreck were outright false. I covered this in a video I made yesterday called I Lied, but if we just go over it one more time again, there was no blackmail.
Cody in the Prime
Not
Net.
an iota of blackmail was seen. When Train said, are you going to send Maya and Mitch to
kind of backpedal real quick, though, I don't think anyone was, like, initially talking about OTK investigating themselves, because they did immediately make it clear they were sending it off to the Jackson Walker LLP, or a third-party investigation firm. I think the reason why people are saying that now is because they didn't publicize the results. Of course, I haven't finished the video yet. I wonder if Ludwig has the same take on it that I do, but I think it's a huge disservice to take something so public and then privatize the information that was found. It makes it very hard to take their word for it and trust everything was done fairly, over the board, everything treated equally, and reaching this conclusion. I just think this needed to be public. You can redact personal information so no one's safety is at risk, but just letting people see the general evidence that was collected, and then people can make their own decisions on how to feel about it and where to go from there, and whether or not OTK is making the right decision by bringing Mizkif back. It's just a huge misstep by not putting out like a PR statement from Jackson Walker as opposed to an OTK statement. I think that's why people are saying they investigated themselves and found themselves guilty of no wrongdoing or whatever.
to say that as the one thing that did age really poorly and that was pretty bad of Mizkif, aka this clip. Well, let's just play my reaction here.
Single person that we used to hang out with that doesn't hang out with Slick anymore because of what happened. I actually think there's literally none. Because the reality is, worst comes to worst of it, it's fucking like sexual harassment, right? I mean, like who, like,
man, this is deep. Blood.
Sexual harassment, whatever.
Jesus Christ.
Now, this was a clip from Miz that was on his alt stream that didn't sound so nice in the moment. And this is what I said about it.
At a low scale, it's not really a big deal.
It's like going to a carnival into that house of mirrors.
This is Miz speaking way too candidly and way too stupidly about sexual
Back to
assault,
Lud 1?
saying it's low scale, like there's a tier list that we have to drop every year on what sexual assault we need to rank S tier, what sexual assault we need to rank F tier.
And I lambasted him a bit for
Back
that
to Lud 2?
comment because it was pertaining to sexual assault, which is like a big deal. But I was wrong. He wasn't talking about sexual assault at the time. It was only known that Crazy Slick, his roommate at the time, sexually harassed Adriana. That's based off her words. Listen to this.
I've only recently figured out and found out, especially without sitting, that it's sexual assault.
So I feel like that covers it. I'm just playing that clip again because it is totally coincidental that I happened to upload that video yesterday or 2 days ago, and then they did this announcement yesterday. Obviously, I have no clue that this was coming. Otherwise, it would have been great to just wait a day, and that would have covered it. But yes, rehashing a lot of the original claims of Mizkif covering up sexual assault don't seem to be true. What is true and what OTK did punish him for were his actions on his comeback stream October 11th, which demonstrated a lack of empathy and ignorance towards the seriousness of the situation. Now, I never made a video about this. I never really talked about this, so a lot of you might not know. But after
he had a really awful
the
fucking
initial
comeback
apology
stream.
that Mizkif made on Twitter, he kind of went radio silent for a while. He didn't stream for a long time, and then he suddenly was like, I'm going to come back and I'm going to stream. Fine.
And it was also after redoing that apology on Twitter 5 times and every time missing like the actual problem with it. It was rough. Like that whole series there was an absolute disaster. Like an absolute disaster. Thanks to the resub Levi, Ben, and the Prime Nut, and the 10 gift subs JJ. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the big drop. And I hope you're having a great New Year's. And the resub Phil, Lambo, and Max Alive, and Quick Draw. And the Prime Malos.
That's up to him. You know, the investigation wasn't over. It was going a while. He missed streaming. But his comeback stream was, to put it lightly, embarrassing. It started with an hour of him basically stalling because Hassan and XQC were both reacting to him to try to see what he was going to say about the investigation
God,
or what he was
that's so
going to say about the
2020.
entire situation.
Jesus, 2022.
And Mizkif, in response to this, played
We're beyond
Super
that
Mario
now.
64 and said, I'm going to keep playing until you guys stop watching me. And they didn't. So then he eventually ponied up, and then he said, I have no news. Which by itself would just be like, you know, kind of embarrassing. But then he also had this moment, which was really just dumb.
No matter what, dude. One of my things...
Now, this is a tattoo artist who talks about how good he is at cover-ups, specifically with bad tattoos.
I am a master at cover-ups and reconstruction.
Me too, for 4 years.
Excuse me?
I think this will not look good like this. Like, let's...
That's
Good
tough.
one.
He also pulled up this video of sexual harassment is illegal. It was just kind of tone deaf. I don't think he had a
forgot about
plan
that
going
second
into
part.
the stream. And although it doesn't seem like anything involving a sexual assault cover-up was true, it is true that he made an inappropriate joke about sexual harassment and that he had some unsavory clips and like random
Thanks again,
calls.
J-Fish. Appreciate it, man.
Generally, I just don't think handled it as well as he could have or should have. And I think it's pretty clear that my boy Stans had the better path of what you should do in that position.
And you just go, hey, chat, I've been gone for 3 weeks thinking about everything that's happened. There's an investigation going on, so I can't say anything about it. I hope to give you guys the truth, but in the meantime, I am out of OTK on whatever. I'm going to be streaming like normal so I can make money to pay my rent for the next after this, but today I'm going to leave. I hope I can share more information with you soon. And then you turn off stream. That's it. Literally, that's it.
That's ridiculous,
Stans.
Stans. That doesn't make any sense. You can't get any farming done in that way. Preposterous. Preposterous. Stans once again showcasing that not only was he not God's gift to boxing, he's not God's gift to PR. Ridiculous. Stans. Laughable.
Guy, he's someone who I go to for a lot of the things that I need to do. In response, again, to Miz acting inappropriately during this stream and in the wake of all the drama, OTK has decided
if you're
to
here, Stans, fucking love you,
remove
man.
his board duties effective immediately and place him on monitored probation, which is basically just them saying, hey, we're going to punish him because we acknowledge that it was bad, but we're not going to kick him off. And I think, honestly, if Mizkif wasn't such an important piece of OTK for the first year and a half of its creation, I mean, every big stream was on his channel. He was really carrying the org on the live stream front. He probably would have been kicked off. Straight up.
100%.
If he wasn't that valuable, they probably would have booted him for just how he handled it. Because if there's a clear goal with OTK here, and it is to remove the bad connotations for the bad things that have happened with some of the org's founders
Prime,
from the
Tier 1 Cephalon. Give
org's
Sam Antonio.
like idea in public conscious, but basically trying to clean up their image, right? To put it simply. But I'm going to make a prediction right here, because although it's been a hell of a year and an even worse month, I think OTK has a bright future, and it's not because of Mizkif, it's not because the other streamers on it, but it's because the people running it. Now, I know Tips. I know he's a good dude, and he's someone who came in clutch for me when I was running my Smash event and my chess boxing event by helping out, by sponsoring it with Starforge.
He is a great guy.
And I know he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a smart guy, and I think he'll take the org good places. And he's joined by Zach Diaz, another guy who I know is a super good dude who worked at TikTok and Twitch So barring any other drama and barring these two guys leaving the org, I think OTK will probably stick around, although they will always have a bit of a stained reputation with some, and that's just a battle that time will defeat. And that's about it. I think that covers pretty much everything. Let me know your thoughts, and thanks for watching. All right, subscribe. All right, see you later. Goodbye. That's pretty much it. That happened to the OTK. Don't start an esports org. And honestly, content teams, there's a risk in working with a lot of people because you have to count on those people to be good people. But you never know who's a good person. I could be a bad person. Don't trust anyone, except for people you love. All right.
Okay. Overall, a great recap. Again, I still 100% think this was a mishandling of not publicizing the investigation results. You don't need to get into the specifics if it puts anyone's safety at jeopardy. This was a very public problem. You can't have the evidence that was collected be private, because now no one's ever going to believe it, including me. I have a very hard time believing it. I would like to see everything. I don't know what the truth of the situation was, which is why I'd like to see what's available so I can make my own informed decision on what likely happened and what went on, and who better to get that from than the fucking Jackson Walker LLP third-party investigation unit turbo survival training force. Like, I would like whatever they collected to reach this conclusion to look at myself, to reach my own conclusion. So hopefully, like, I don't think it's too late to release it. They absolutely can. Be like, hey, upon further reflection, we feel it's in the community's best interest so you can see everything that we have about this situation, and everyone can make their own opinion and form their own conclusions on, where to go from here. Like, I don't think it's too late. They can absolutely still release it. And I think that would be extremely beneficial, not only for OTK, but legitimately everyone. So hopefully they'll do that at some point. Thanks to Tier 1 Buckeye. The resub Nomi, Filth, Oakley, Sleepy, Stubu, and the Prime Trippy. I think most people already have their minds made up, guilty or not, regardless of evidence. That's a pretty defeatist look. Right now, there is no evidence from this investigation. The most unbiased investigation, I imagine, since it's a third party, and they didn't provide any evidence to contribute to this, so of course everyone already still has their minds made up. But if they release this evidence, there's a chance it could change mind. If there's good evidence, good collection of data and everything, but they didn't provide it. So everyone's still in the exact same headspace with the exact same information that we had 2 months ago. To be honest, there is no evidence from the original accusation either. You can get into the weeds of the entire thing if you want. It's of course going to boil down to individuals. I'm talking about on a broad scale. This is an organization whose entire fucking purpose for existing is investigating. They collected evidence on this case, provide it to the public, since this was all public, and then everyone can once again make their own conclusions on it. It's not going to change everyone's mind. It might not change anyone's mind, but at least it's complete. Then you have everything. And then you can make your informed conclusions on it. The middle ground take? It's not a middle ground take. I think that's just a common sense take. I don't know why I just keep fucking repeating myself here. I feel like one of Taylor's streams right now talking about rockin' and rollin'. It is a public issue that had occurred. Why keep all of the evidence private? You can redact information that's sensitive and puts people at risk and release the general findings publicly and let everyone look at it. It's just, I think that's very, very easy. I have a hard time looking at this and just believing everything was great. He was innocent on everything that they investigated. However, if they provided the evidence and I could go through it, maybe I'd see it and be like, oh, it turns out he truly was innocent on everything. And this Discord call was misunderstood, or this stream moment was misunderstood. Like, possible? Like, the point is just having it so I can see and make my own decisions on it. Thanks to the Prime, TB, and the resub Juicy, Flamin', and Krusty, and Hamison. That's all I'm saying. If you're at the point where you're going to doubt findings from Jackson Walter, you're probably not going to believe the report. Again, it might not change everyone's mind, might not change anyone's mind. I just think it's important to have for the complete picture on everything. Of course, I think the history of Twitter has shown us people will disregard things that don't fit with what they want to believe. I think that's very obvious. So, of course, even if the evidence 100% confirms Miz was totally innocent, in fact, he wasn't even in Austin at the time, people would still ignore that. But maybe there's things there where they're like, oh, this is still a little sketchy, because even in this statement, they say that there's not enough evidence to confirm that he was guilty of anything. So maybe someone sees it and they were on the fence initially and they're like, this is still very sketchy to me. I just don't know if I can really move on from this and watch Miz the same anymore. I think it's just important. Thanks to resub Chase, Brycer, and Mad Hat. The Prime, Ramen, and Mom. The resub JJ and Turtles. Biggest issue is that horrible comeback stream. Well, the stream is objectively horrible. His comeback stream was very, very tasteless and very, very bad. Yeah. But I don't think that's the biggest issue. Again, the whole situation was a big issue. And just, I think, for the millionth time, this team should have a statement out from their investigation about what they found and everything that was collected. They found nothing, that's their statement. Well, then let's hear it from them. This was the worst investigation we've ever been handed. We couldn't find anything. Sorry, guys. Literally just anything from Jackson Walker I would like to see in regards to this investigation.